Welcome to The Grow Show, powered by Steel. On The Grow Show, we share ideas, tips, tactics, and insights to help you grow your landscaping business based on our team's 40 years of experience running a landscaping company and working with other owners and their teams to do the same. New episodes are released weekly on Wednesdays. Filling in for our host, Marty Grunder, this week is Grow Group Vice President Vince Torchia. I'll let him take it from here.
Hi, everybody. Vince Torchia here from the Grow Group on another exciting episode of The Grow Show powered by Steel. Today, what I want to talk to you about are financial metrics. A lot of the companies that we work with, a lot of people following us, they're great operators, they're great horticulturalists, they're really good landscapers. Maybe they struggle with knowing, hey, what numbers do I look at? When do I look at them? What do I do if they're off? You could go through a whole MBA course. You could spend 4 years of college learning about finance and accounting. But today in this mini episode, what I want to share with you are some basic things to look at on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So on a daily basis, at every landscaping company, I'd want to know what kind of cash do we have in the bank, right? What is our current cash position? Cash is king, right? It always has been. It always will be. It is liquid. You can spend it. You can invest it. You can save it. You can do a lot of things with cash. So on a daily basis, what is our cash balance? We're going to get into a weekly look out of that, but just every day, I want to know what our cash is. How is money flowing into our company today? How is money flowing out of our company today? So cash is number one. Number two, on a daily basis, what's our accounts receivable balance? I may not be taking action on this every day, but every day I want to know, based on, again, the cash number that we already talked about, what are we collecting today? What is coming in? What are we expecting? What is our balance? Who owes us what? What are we doing about this to collect it? Again, that does not mean every day you're calling your customers saying, hey, did you pay me today? Hey, did you pay me today? Hey, did you pay me today? But you do want to know what is out there. Because again, right, if it's in AR, it's been billed, work's been done, probably a contract signed, that's our money just hanging out there. So aside from cash and a little bit of a tangent to cash, you should know what your AR balance is on a daily basis. And then now bleeding into some more of an operational finance metric is our hours, right? What is our hours? How are we doing budgeted hours versus actual hours? How do we perform today? How do we perform yesterday? What are we performing in this week that we need to make sure we know? How many hours do we have budgeted? What's our actual time it's taking to do this? Now, to have that ability to look at hours on a daily basis, you have to have a good time approval process. Best practice for companies is to approve time the following day for the day before, first thing in the morning, so you always have an accurate picture of where you are on an hour perspective. But that's what we sell. That's what we do. That's really where rubber meets the road, where we win or lose, hour management. So I'd want to look at that every day. Again, the easiest way to do it per division or per crew, what is our average or what is our actual budget for the day? And then in an hour's perspective, and how did we do against that? We budgeted for 30 hours. We came in at 29. We budgeted for 45. We came in at 48, right? And then you can begin to peel away, well, that was drive time, or that was loading time, or that was warranty work that doesn't really count towards our hours. It's kind of a separate cost section that we have, or that was really just drive time for the maintenance crews. You can peel all those back, but you should know on a daily basis how you're doing from an hours perspective. So to wrap up daily, cash in the bank, what do we have? AR, who's paying us what? And hours. How are we doing on our hours? So with that, let's move into more of a future-looking aspect of a weekly program for looking at numbers. So on a weekly basis, we're going to continue to watch cash. We're going to continue to watch AR. We're going to continue to watch hours. But now we're going to talk about, okay, now who do we owe money to? What's our accounts payable? What's our call for cash this week? What vendors do we owe, whether it's block or materials or your site ones or whatever the case may be? Who are we paying this week, right? Is it a payroll week? Do we have the cash set aside for payroll and the burden on it? Whether we're doing weekly payroll or biweekly payroll, every week we should be tracking what's our estimated payroll going to be? Do we have the cash to pay that? How does that affect our short-term decision-making, right? So every week we know who we're paying externally from an accounts payable perspective and internally from a payroll perspective. We also want to know on a weekly basis, how are we doing on our sales to date, right? We're in the 32nd week of the 52 weeks in a year. How are we doing? How are we doing versus our budget? What's coming in? What does our pipeline look like? What is our backlog performance? How are we managing our sales on a weekly basis to ensure that by the end of the year, we're going to hit our sales goal? If you look at sales once a month, there's just too much opportunity for you to miss what is actually going to happen at your company. So you have to be on sales on a weekly basis, whether it's a sales meeting or a sales huddle, whatever you're doing. Every single week, we've got to know, okay, what have we sold so far? What's in our pipeline? What are we closing? How are we communicating this to operations so we can have a good backlog of work so our schedule stays constant, so we don't have these peaks and valleys? What are we doing from a sales perspective now? And then again, on an operational perspective, how is our performance on jobs, right? Again, daily, we're looking at hours. Weekly, we're looking at job performance, right? Materials included in those jobs, maybe some subcontractors, some rental equipment. Every week, as we're closing out jobs or hitting our maintenance routes, how are we performing in aggregate on our jobs on a weekly basis? So every week, who are we paying? Internally, in form of payroll, externally, and accounts receivable, and then sales. What are we selling? What else do we have left to sell? How's our pipeline? Who do I need to get back to? Those weekly sales meetings, sales huddles are going to go a long way. And then again, job performance weekly. Where are we over? Where are we under? How are we doing on materials? What about procurement? What jobs are coming up? Do we have subs? Do we have rentals? How does that all play into the profitability of our jobs? So again, that should be looked at on a weekly basis. Continuing on, we looked at things on a daily basis, looked at things on a monthly basis, or on a weekly basis. Now, on a monthly basis, right? Every month, no matter what, we should have a closeout of the previous month, right? So hopefully by the 10th day of the month, the previous month is getting closed out, and we have a full accounting of the profit and loss statement and a full update on the balance sheet. How did we end the month? Were we profitable? How was our gross profit margin? How was our direct expenses? How was our overhead expense? How are we doing compared to our plan? All those things could happen in a monthly deep dive of financials. Again, if you just wait and review a P&L once a month, you're missing so many opportunities. That's why we have sales conversations every week. That's why we have operational lookouts every week. That's why we're forecasting payroll. That's why we're looking at cash. That's why we're looking at AR. If we just wait till the end of the month and only look at a P&L, we're not getting the whole story. However, every team, every company should be taking a deep dive once the month is closed into their full profit and loss statement and into their balance sheet. Balance sheet is like the current status of the company, right? Assets, liabilities, and equities. How are we doing totally? We'll do that once a month as well. And then another kicker on a monthly basis, you can do what's called a trailing 12 analysis, something we do as part of our peer group membership that we run in partnership with McFarland Stanford. We're doing a trailing 12-month look. So not just, hey, how are we doing this, through our year to date? Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 7 months. How are we doing the last 12 months? What's key about a trailing 12-month lookout every month is that you're capturing all the seasons, you're capturing any inconsistencies, you're capturing all the things that need to look backwards at your company to inform future decisions. Because if you think about it, let's say that right now it's July 4th and we're doing just our year-to-date analysis. We're only looking at January through June. Well, there's no December in there. There's no winter months, except for January and February. But there's no November. There's no December. There's no fall color. There's no fall plantings. So what are we really looking at other than just our plan for the first 6 months of the year that maybe we charted out? Whereas if we do a look back and we look all the way through July last year through June of this year, now we know how we're operating from that 12-month perspective. That captures seasonality, that captures any inconsistencies. That gives us a better idea of where we're trending and what our 12-month outlook will be for this year. So again, on a monthly basis, once the month is closed, we're looking at a full accounting of the P&L. How are we doing towards our plan? How are we doing towards where we thought we were going to be? What are our costs, right? Where are we high? Where are we low? And then we're also doing this trailing 12-month look back. How are we doing the last 12 months, not just year to date? And then finally, if you want to get into any more look from a financial perspective, on a quarterly basis, you can just do a deeper dive into the quarter and a deeper dive into the P&L. But if you do those three things on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and on a monthly basis, you'll be in a really good spot. So let me recap that. You can always review the show notes for anything else you're looking for. On a daily basis, we're looking at cash. We're looking at our accounts receivable balance, and we're looking at our hour management. On a weekly basis, we're looking at who we're paying, externally in payroll, externally in accounts payable, internally in payroll. Then we're looking at our sales, our process, our pipeline, our budget, what do we have to close. We're looking at all the things that need to happen from a sales perspective to keep us moving. And then operationally, we're looking at jobs that are closed out. not just the hour performance, but the material performance, the sub performance, the procurement performance, the rental performance, everything else that happens once a job is closed out. Weekly, as they're closed out, we're reviewing those. And then monthly, take that time, deep dive into the P&L, deep dive into the 12-month recap, and you will begin to see patterns in your business that you can go make changes for the better. So use the show notes, go back through this, talk to your team, have a rhythm every day of looking at certain numbers, every week looking at certain numbers, every month looking at certain numbers, and then using quarters to do deep dives into those. So I hope in a way I've helped you this week on The Grow Show, powered by Steel. Tune in next week as we continue to talk about subjects that are relevant, relatable, and crucial to landscapers being successful. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Grow Show. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and head to growgroupinc.com for more information and resources to grow your landscaping business. A special thanks to the folks at Steel, whose support makes this podcast possible and whose reliable handheld power equipment makes our jobs easier daily. We'll talk to you next week.